K&N catback that we're talking about here today might just be one of the best bang for your buck systems available for the 2017 through 2025 liter F-150 owners who want a good amount of bark. Now this system will pack a full 304 grade stainless steel build, 3-inch mandrel bent tubing throughout, and the factory style exit, all for right around that mid $500 price point. So yes, you guys heard me correctly. This system is from K&N, a legendary filter and intake company who recently decided to spread their wings a little bit further and dip their toes into the exhaust world. And guys, if this system is any indication of what they plan on doing, get ready to start seeing and hearing a lot more K&N systems in the near future, because this catback for the price point absolutely rocks. And hopefully the sound clips you guys heard at the top of this video do this system some justice, and that is the deep but aggressive tone at startup, all the way through the RPM range when you really start hammering down on the truck. So pulling up my Wake the Neighbor scale, I've got the K&N here coming in hot at a solid 4 out of 5 on my 1 to 5 or 1 to Wake the Neighbor scale with plenty of rumble. Now, as expected with this kind of system, right, you do get a bit more noise inside the cab with the K&N. I think it's a good thing in some respects because you're hearing a lot more bark, but then there is a little bit of drone to be aware of too. And again, that does kind of come along with the territory when we're talking about an aggressive system like this. But sound aside, what do you say we take a step back and look at what you are getting here with the K&N? And again, that's a full 304 grade stainless steel build, guys. That's the premium material in the category for around that mid $500 price point. That's awesome, right? Guys, believe me when I tell you, you don't see that kind of material a lot at this price point, and it is certainly worth mentioning. Now that 304 grade stainless, if you didn't know, is going to be your best bet at reducing rust or corrosion over the long term and will be perfect for the F-150 owners out there in snowy or salty areas. Now the only downside, if you can even really call it that, is that you're not really getting a fancy configuration like a dual split rear exit or dual tips or anything like that. Instead, this is a factory style configuration, which is going to exit right behind that passenger side rear tire. Now this system will eliminate the factory resonator on your 17 through 20 truck with that 3-inch tubing, which then enters this very small muffler straight through by design, perforated tube design, before everything exits out of your 4-inch tip here that has been etched with the K&N logo. Now K&N also claims a little bit of power added with this kit, but my experience with catbacks on these trucks is that gains aren't impossible per se. They're typically minor at best. So I'll always tell owners that something like this is gonna be a sound improvement or sound modification first over anything else at the end of the day. But with that out of the way, let's get into the install here, guys. And site's gonna call this a strong 1 out of 3 wrenches on the difficulty meter. About an hour or so to complete from start to finish, using nothing more really than a basic socket set. But to give you a better idea of just how the job will go down on your 5 liter at home, here's an AT customer to walk you through it now.
All right, so now we can go over the tools that we use for this job. It was 3/8 inch extension, 3/8 ratchet, 14 millimeter wrench, 15 millimeter wrench, 0 to 100 pound torque wrench. These were used to tighten the exhaust clamps and the 2 exhaust bolts up front to the 45 foot-pounds. Have a 15 millimeter socket, 14 millimeter socket, 10 millimeter socket, and a 13 millimeter socket. The 13 was used for the stock bolts that were up front. 10 millimeter socket we used for the exhaust to remove the exhaust hanger. 14 millimeter we used for the new hardware that came with the kit for the front connection, and 15 millimeter we used for the exhaust clamp nuts. First, we're gonna make sure the ignition is turned off and the engine and the exhaust is cooled to the touch. Next, we're going to want to spray some penetrating fluid on the existing exhaust bolts, so to ensure a easy removal. and let that soak for a few minutes. Now after you let that sit for a few minutes and soak in, you want to grab your 13mm socket and 3/8 drive ratchet and remove the 2 bolts on either side. Now that you've removed the two bolts that connected the tailpipe to the head pipe, I found it a lot easier if you remove this hanger that is forward of the muffler, the stock muffler, and just taking these two 10mm bolts out, the whole hanger will come off. And after you disconnect the hanger from the stock muffler, you can reinstall the hanger right here back to the frame. Again, this is with a 10mm socket and 3/8" drive ratchet. Now that we have this hanger removed from the frame, we're just going to go ahead and take this rubber piece off of the stock muffler, and we'll set that aside till after we have the stock exhaust removed and ready for install of the aftermarket exhaust. Now the next step is to remove the stock exhaust from underneath the truck. This is done by grabbing on the exhaust system, pushing it straight back, wiggle it around a little bit, and you drop it down, pull it up, and what you want to do is you want to get the end of the exhaust pipe where the tip is up over the axle, the rear axle. Now to help with the removal of the stock exhaust system, I have lifted the back of the truck. If you have a vehicle lift, it will help you greatly. I am doing this in my driveway. So I have lifted the back of the truck, not the rear axle, but off of the tow hitch. And this should give me enough room to be able to pull out the stock exhaust now. All right, now you do want to make sure that on your rear axle, when you're pulling your stock exhaust off, that you're very careful from the brake lines that run across the axle, the rear axle. Now all I gotta do is slide the exhaust from underneath the truck, and I'll be right back. Now this is a side-by-side comparison of the stock exhaust and the K&N Performance exhaust system. As you can see, there is a resonator delete with the K&N system, and the aftermarket muffler is a considerably amount smaller than the stock muffler. It does come with a nice tip. And now we are going to start the installation of the K&N Performance exhaust system back underneath our truck. All right, so the first step we're going to do to install our aftermarket exhaust system is to install the mid pipe with the included hardware. Okay, now these are 14 millimeter nuts and bolts. So I have a 14 millimeter ratcheting wrench I'm going to put on one side, and then we're going to use our ratchet and just tighten it down just a little bit. You do not want to tighten it down all the way. Just get it to where the nuts will not fall off of the bolts. And for this, I'm using a 14 millimeter deep well socket. Again, a 14 mil ratcheting wrench. Alright, we got this started. Now we're gonna move back to the rear of the truck and go ahead and install the aftermarket muffler. And we have to put back on the stock muffler or muffler bracket that we removed previously. Alright, now we've moved back to where the stock exhaust hanger was located, and we are just going to reinstall the stock muffler or hanger for right in front of the muffler. Again, this is with two 10 millimeter bolts. Using our 10 millimeter socket and 3/8 drive ratchet, go ahead and tighten this hanger back down to the frame. Wrench tight those. Now we're going to grab the exhaust clamp that was provided in the packaging, and we're going to slide it onto our mid pipe. And now we're going to get the muffler, the next section of exhaust piping that has the muffler on it, and we're going to install that onto the muffler hanger and install it into the pipe. On this, your hanger is going to go right in here. First, before we do that, we need to route the new piping up over the rear axle. Then we're ready to install it into the hanger in the back. Now you will have to work the pipe a little bit to get it to go into the hanger. This is the hanger that it goes into. All right, to make this a little bit easier, I'm going to take this hanger back off and put it onto the aftermarket muffler hanger, just to make it a little bit easier to install. Previously we did remove this and put it back up here so I thought it would be easier, but I was wrong. That's okay. It doesn't take no time to take these two 10 millimeter bolts out and put them back in. Alright, now that we got that down, I'm going to go ahead and put this hanger right here on the aftermarket hanger portion. Then we're going to hold this back up and put those two 10 millimeter bolts back in. I'm not going to tighten that up just yet. I want not tighten it down all the way just yet until we get our mid pipe installed into our muffler here. These two should slide together rather easily, and they do. Now that we've got those put together, we're going to take our clamp that we set on the mid pipe. We're going to bring that up to over top of the connection here. Now this is a 15 millimeter nut that's on the end of that. Take ratchet wrench. Tighten that down just a little bit. Not all the way, just so it doesn't move around a whole lot. Perfect. Now we're going to go ahead and tighten up our two stock hanger bolts right here. This is again with our 10 millimeter socket and 3/8 drive ratchet. So get everything positioned where it should be. Tighten those two all the way down. Again, you don't even have to remove this bracket. I just felt like it would make it a little bit easier. Next, we're going to go ahead and slide our exhaust clamp up onto the pipe up here. So it's right there whenever we're ready to tighten it down. And then we're going to get the last section of the exhaust and feed that up through and make this connection up here. All right, now we're going to feed our tailpipe with the tip up into the hanger. That's right here. We're going to connect our pipes. Make sure those go all the way together. Then we're going to bring our exhaust clamp back over here. Now we're just going to go ahead and grab our 15 millimeter socket on our 3/8 drive ratchet and tighten this clamp down. And then once we got that tightened down just a little bit, go ahead and move to the front of the truck. We can tighten down the mid pipe to the exhaust. Okay, now we've moved back up to the mid pipe. We need to tighten down the hardware. I would suggest doing this evenly. Now, once you've gotten your bolts tightened, you're going to want to tighten them, do a complete tighten down to 45 foot-pounds. The directions say to tighten it between 40 and 45. I'm just going to go ahead and tighten them down to 45 foot-pounds using a clip tight torque wrench. Now that we've gotten the front bolts, 2 bolts tightened down, we're going to want to move back to the back. That's the exhaust clamp right here that's right in front of the muffler. And we're going to want to also, using our 15mm socket and torque wrench, we're going to want to torque that down to 45 foot-pounds as well. First, we're going to want to do any adjustments to the tip to make sure it's positioned where we would want it. Now, to get the tip held in at what angle you would like for it to come out, I use the bungee cord and just have the bungee cord holding the tip of the exhaust up. So whenever I torque down the last exhaust clamp, the tip is positioned exactly how I would like it. Now that we've got the tip positioned where I'd like it, take our torque wrench and we're going to tighten this last clamp right here down to 45 foot-pounds. Again, I'm using 15mm socket, our ratcheting torque wrench. Alright, torque down. Now our installation is complete.
So if you are looking for a fantastic system that will do a great job of cranking the volume while delivering stellar materials, all at a super affordable price point, be sure to consider the K&N for your 5-liter right here at AmericanTrucks.com.